What's happening, ladies and gentlemen of League Zero, and welcome to the preseason episode of the countdown for Season 2. And God, does it feel good to say that. Anyways, I'm sure you're wondering about the new look for the show. I will be explaining that briefly before we actually get into the real thing. So the giant box that I'm in currently is normally going to be for gameplay and the primary graphics having to do with this week's predictions and recap. The box in the top left corner is going to be for the analyst predictions. You're going to see smaller graphics rotating in and out over the course of each segment. The box just below that is going to be for the Discord window, so you can see who's talking at any given point in time. Then the bar underneath me is not actually a loading bar this season, but rather a news feed that the divisional analysts will help me fill out with various phrases having to do with either statistics or memes or really anything else. But if you did enjoy the loading bar from last season, don't worry, because we still have a timekeeping graphic. The little League Zero logo at the edge of the newsfeed will be rotating once over the course of each segment before resetting. And of course, we will have timestamps in the pinned comment, so feel free to skip around the video as much as you like. Anyways, that's all I've really got, so without any further ado, enjoy the show.
Welcome everyone to the League Zero Novice Division Countdown. Today I'm with a few of my acolytes here. Me, myself, Grapecake, Acronator, Radcos, and Milky. And today we're going to be breaking down the Novice Division. Is that all I say?
Yeah, you're good. I will have said in the beginning part of this podcast, I'm going to be here to make sure that the hosts are all set and they're comfortable. So this is their very first time doing anything like this, so go easy on them for now. We'll get more comfortable as the season goes on.
Yes.
Please leave this in the final cut, please.
Yes.
This is going in the final cut. There's only one take.
One take.
One take only. Okay.
So,
anyways,
our first thing we're going to be going over is the power rankings, if I'm not mistaken. So,
yep.
On screen right now, there's all four of us have our own power rankings, and I'll just start with mine first. So, currently I have Platchat as number 1, Geometric, and then I have Hyperflex, Wisdom, OTW, and Rio. And when I look at all these power rankings, something that we all have in common is that it's either OTW or Rio in the bottom 2. And I just want to get your guys' opinion on that.
Yeah.
Well, the main thing is, especially for me and Milky have kind of talked about this before in general chat, but we think, honestly, right now there's 2 tiers. There's like the A tier and then the B tier. There's really not much separation between. I think, hell, him and I had multiple discussions about how our top 3, honestly, you can change them out any given day.
Yeah.
And same thing with the bottom 3. For me, for Rio and OTW, the reason why they're in my bottom 3 is I haven't really seen anything to stand out to me in particular. Like, I've been watching a lot of VODs, thanks to the managers. This is what happens, kids, whenever you're nice to people. They give you free stuff. But yeah, I just basically kind of looked. Nothing really stood out to me. Not saying that they're bad or anything. If anything, like, there's nothing obviously wrong with any of these teams. It's actually gonna be a good season, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think a lot of the teams, for the most part, are really even. Like, even going through, like, I still think they're the 2 tiers: Hyperflex, Wisdom, Geometric, and like the A tier, and then Rio, Platchat, and One Trick in the B tier. But honestly, we can see any of these teams move around
And the thing
throughout the season.
I think with Novice as well, if you look back to it last season, there's always like 3 really good teams and 3 really weak teams. And especially with only 6 teams, there's always going to be those teams that are really good and those teams are really bad. And in my opinion, right now, looking at management alone, I think all of us can agree on who's in the top A and who's in the bottom B. But it's going to be quite interesting to see, especially in Novice, like how teams are able to utilize different comps and just utilize different heroes in general, because it's gonna differ greatly compared to intermediate and advanced.
One thing
definitely.
I do want to point out is the fact that all me, Acronator, and Milky all have Platchat in our bottom 3, but you have them number 1. You want to go ahead and explain why?
So yeah, so if you guys don't know, I was a part of Platchat's management before the draft. So
yeah, that's right.
Maverick and Beltler really worked hard during pugs and just scouting in general. I think I spent like 3-4 hours scouting main tanks alone, and getting in contact with a lot of main tanks and just tanks in general, and giving my input on that. So I feel like the scouting that Platchat put in was a lot when in the vast scheme of things. The amount of pugs that we watched, the amount of VODs we watched, really like helped us going into the draft. And when when the draft after the draft and we looked at all the picks, we were all really happy with who we picked up and who we got. So I really think that Platchat is going to be a really top contender coming into Novice this season.
I will
really
say
do
that
like- Go ahead.
I was just going to say I agree with the idea that there's like top 3 and bottom 3. However, I think Wisdom and Platchat in particular in my power rankings, so I have 3rd and 4th respectively, could very easily swap back and forth. Like I see those two teams very close. So, and honestly, I do think that like the top 4 in my power rankings could be very interchangeable.
That's fair. To me, like I like Platchat's tank line a lot, but the reason why I personally have Wisdom as number 1, I've seen their VODs and their scrims. They move like a team. I do not understand how they quickly can literally. It looks like goats, like where they all just kind of swarm onto one hero and they destroy them pretty much. That's what they do. Like that's what Wisdom, and it kind of blows me away. Like Wisdom doesn't really have anyone that like stands out in particular, but because of the fact that they play so well with each other, that's why I personally have the number 1.
That kind of the way you described that kind of reminds me of the Vega Parrots last season.
Yeah,
Especially at the beginning.
Yeah, the Parrots drafted a lot of unknown players, and they ended up being the best team during regular season. And when I look at this Platchat roster, a lot of the players are unknown, but they also have some really good players like Anju, who's a really talented player. You have you also have Vaporeon, who's our captain, who's a very talented player. You have Crimson, who's a very talented player. So I think Platchat's gonna be a top team. There's a little bit of bias because I did help coach them a little bit, but I still think they're gonna be a top tier to be reckoned with.
Honestly,
I will say.
We all jumped in at the same time. Yeah. Honestly, when we talk about players being known or whatever, as Grape has did some management, some stuff for Platchat, I did some for Geometric before the season started. So I kind of have that insider information between all the players that we had in private pugs and all the players that we scouted. And honestly, I see Hyperflex and Wisdom Academy, and they picked up like the big names from the pugs. Like I think their roster is pretty stacked.
I think in my video that I had, literally everyone said that the people that got sniped from them was from Wisdom and Hyperflex.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah.
I don't know
So
if
as
Oh, sorry, you go on, Milky. I don't want to cut you
okay, no problem. As we kind of go on, like we see more and more unknowns. Like I think Rio still has a pretty good roster, but like the only reason I have Geometric above them is that I have a ton of faith in their support line. Like Hanzo and Storm are probably I'm gonna throw the bold claim out there that they're probably the 2 best players in Novice. Like they are insanely flexible.
Actually,
actually crazy.
It's really funny that you mentioned Hanzo being one of the top players in Novice, because we had we had a few people complaining that maybe she doesn't belong in Novice. Like, so Steph looked at a few VODs of her, and because we were making sure she wasn't a Smurf. Long story short, she is not a Smurf. Like, guaranteed she's not. But she is currently on the rise in SR. Like, she went from, I believe, high silver to like low gold right now, and she looks mechanically like she could reach up to plat. I think she does have some game sense issues. That's kind of holding her back in terms of rank, but I feel like in this sort of team environment, she could be like another Oasis or an Eps, where they just started off in like plat last season and shot up the Masters.
Yeah, that was crazy, by the way. How they got to Masters in just a matter of 2 months.
Yep. Well, I could see Hanzo doing the exact same thing.
Like
most of these like novice players are really, really damn good, like in their mechanical skills. Just a lot of them are lacking in game sense. From the few pugs that I've seen, they just need like that little push to be even better. While, like, for example, you can see a lot of these like Widowmakers in gold. You would think, a Widow gold. Turns out they actually have pretty damn good shots. The reason why is because they have like horrendous game sense, horrendous positioning, and so they can get some really good coaching on them. I think we can see some of these players honestly hit plat or diamond at the end of the season.
Yeah, honestly, I think what wins the games here is who has the best coaching staff. Yeah. Because I think all these teams have a good amount of talent, and like on paper they're relatively even. But like what happens behind the scenes is what's going to propel these teams forward.
Yeah, like especially in Novice, the thing that separates an intermediate and novice team is just game sense. So whoever can build the best games and whoever is going to have the best positioning at the end of the day, like how Radko said earlier, is going to prevail the most. Because in intermediate and advanced, you can still get away with like those things with mechanical skill, but in novice in particular, if you want to if you want to improve it greatly and want to be the best team, it's going to go down to positioning and game sense.
And that kind of brings me up to this point of Hyperflex. Honestly, by the end of the season, I think they could possibly be number one because I've taken a peek at their practice sessions, their structure, and Arrow is a really damn good coach.
Yeah.
Explaining every little thing, explaining the minute details, and basically forcing his players to ask good questions to get better. That's one of the things I see. Same thing with Wisdom. Wisdom has they are another group that kind of picked up League Zero to like basically babysit these novice players in their words. But I can also see that one there. So I honestly think that Hyperflex and Wisdom possibly like kind of taking top control of like the upper half. Although just Geometric, in my opinion, is just probably has the best individual players overall.
Going on to Hyperflex for a second, one of the players that really stands out to me is Herping Yoshi. This guy was really underrated in my opinion. I scouted him a little bit, and I'll probably say he's probably the best tank I scouted out of all of them. He's really flexible. His positioning's pretty good. There were a lot of things I told him he has to focus on, but if he did already fix those, I can see him being probably the best main tank in this league. In Novice right now. So that's one pick I'm really impressed the Hyperflex went for.
Another person that I kind of look at, not looking at Hyperflex, but kind of going back to Plat Chat, Alpha Omega. I saw him play a little bit of Widow. That kind of reminds me of what I just said. Like his Widow aim is actually really damn good. And depending on what kind of meta is going to come out of Novice, because of course it might not be the meta from Intermediate or Advanced, I think we might be able to see him and some other Widowmakers dominate because typically in this lower rank you don't know how to deal with a good Widowmaker. But again, it's one of those things, but we'll see. I just wanted to mention that.
Yeah.
Ironically, the meta is kind of shifting back towards double sniper, believe it or not.
And dive a little bit. Dive definitely is too. Like after this next patch, if it does come out, Sigma is useless, by the way, because he's so easily countered now.
It's mostly Orisa Ryan from what I've seen.
Yeah.
Basically, every single thing that I've seen from these novice scrims have been either Orisa Ryan or some version of Dive.
Yeah. Be very interesting to see what is played.
Bringing back Dive.
Dude, I'm so excited.
Anyways, you want to go over the actual game predictions now, because we've been talking about
I think we should move on to the next thing, which is the game predictions. And the first game that we have going on is Real Redemption versus Geometric. And all of us agree that Geometric will win this, either 3-0 or 3-1. And I want to get your guys' thoughts on that. On why.
Honestly, Geo just looks stacked. Like,
yeah.
Rio isn't bad from what I can tell, but Geometric is just ready to go.
Yeah,
Like,
Geometric, I'm pretty sure they kind of got sniped through the draft, or somehow their plan messed up, so they just kind of defaulted on getting just the top SR players.
Oh, so you
But
want
they
to
got-
interview with Predator?
Oh yeah, I did. We're on the grind, but they still have a lot of really solid players that I saw from scouting. As I mentioned before, Hanzo and Stormy, and I know Corbs is good and Flint's good. So honestly, I really trust the core of Geometric more than I trust the core of Rio. But I can see it being an upset, honestly. Like, I can
definitely
see
week one easily.
I can see it.
Well, that's kind of why I think they're going to at least take one map at the very minimum. Honestly, we could all be wrong and Rio just pulls it out. Rio does have some bright spots, but overall, Geometric somehow just got like the best individual players from the draft. And like, while they don't look like a team yet from the things that I've seen, they honestly don't have to be because they can rely on their carry potential for each one of them.
Yeah.
Ironically, a lot like Rio from last season, where they just had so much raw skill at the very beginning that they didn't have to worry about teamwork until halfway through the season.
Yeah,
But
I
now
was
they're
on
called
that
Geo.
team. We literally had the
Yeah.
worst teamwork ever.
You never got
Me
to
and
play,
Grape, let's
though.
go.
Poor Grape.
Yeah.
You
Bro,
actually have good
there's so
comms.
many
You could have
things-
helped them.
There are so many things I want to say right now, but
No, it's fine.
I'm just gonna
Completely different Rio.
I was on Rio
Wisdom
too.
versus yeah,
Should we move on to the next one?
Wisdom versus OTW.
Wisdom
That one's
versus
pretty unanimous, too.
OTW. So, a lot of us have Wisdom, just like Geometric, winning. But there's a wide range. People think either OTW will get a map, 0 maps, or even 2 maps. So, for me in particular, Akron, why do you think Akron and Milky? Why do you think this would be a relatively close game?
Let's
I
see.
don't see Wisdom as like so dominant that they can 3-0 OTW.
Yeah,
quite
that's
yet.
mainly it. I can definitely see them gain the 3-0, but I don't know. It's first week Novice, and we're just gonna have to see how it goes because I like a lot of the players on One Trick. I think Void's good, First Abyss is good, Anti-Crystal is good. Like I think they have a good core, but ultimately, when I'm just looking at the rosters of these teams, I think Wisdom definitely has the tools to make it work more. Like they can change out pieces. Like they have some insane tanks, some insane DPS, some insane supports. So I just think they're a lot more flexible team. So if something's not working, they can just change it up.
I think
Yeah.
Wisdom, aside from being slightly on the edge in terms of like skill, probably has a lot more composure. From what I've been seeing, they just play like a team more.
And honestly, that's where my power rankings come from. Power rankings right now is how I see how ready a team is to play together. And Wisdom to me just looks dominant in every way. While yes, they don't have the best players, they literally don't have to play like the best players because every single one of their team does their job. And that's why I honestly think it's going to be 3-0. Not saying that One Trick Wonders is bad. It's just from what I've seen, nothing kind of wowed me from them. So that's kind of why.
That's kind of the surprising thing in Novice. Like none of these teams look bad. Like they all look pretty even.
Yeah, this is a lot closer of a setup than I think we've ever seen before. Granted, we have no idea about any of these teams or players yet, aside from Red Ghost because he's been studying like hell.
Yeah.
So many videos. So many.
Yeah.
But honestly, like even if your team is at the bottom of our rankings, that's not meaning that like, oh, we think you're the underdog. No, it's just everyone's just that close that someone had to be the last place, and so I just think it's gonna be great to just play out throughout the season.
And I think we can go on to the next and last game of the week for week 1. It will be Platjet versus Hyperflex. Everyone is thinking Hyperflex is gonna win, while I myself is going with Platjet 3-0ing though.
I want to. Okay. I want to see why you think it's a 3-0.
Okay, let me tell you why. I
Because
think
he scouted them.
I think Platchat has a good. I know they're starting 6, but I can't leak it. But
Wow.
I think Platchat has this in the bag. Okay, I think Platchat has been working rigorously, hard, and I think they just know what they're doing. And I personally, I don't think Hyperflex is ready for them. I think Hyperflex is a really good team, but I feel like they're gonna get surprised by some of Platchat's strats. That's my opinion on it.
Possibly. I will say to your credit for your reasoning, Grape, Hyperflex is definitely confident. And I think there's a thin line there between confident and overconfidence. They definitely have the skill to go toe-to-toe with Blackchat, but...
Yeah, especially when you have a manager like Arrow who's really overconfident, cocky in general.
He seems to be taking a more reserved approach to coaching, though. Like, he seems to
he
actually
does.
be making sure his players aren't getting hothead.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, honestly, from the few times that I've seen, literally whenever, if I'm not mistaken, this is Hyperflex. Again, I've watched so many videos that they get blurred. But I need to double check this later. But basically, someone says, "Oh man, we're so good," and literally they just said, "Hey, none of that. You can after the game, you can do that, but not during the match. I need you guys to stay focused."
That's actually super good to hear from Novice team. Like,
Let me double check. See
Imagine trash talking now. This. Sorry.
Imagine trash talking
Wow.
when you're not getting paid for this. Like, I find it
You're not
funny when
getting paid?
Advanced trash talks each other.
I think I need to talk to you later, Acronator. I thought I was getting paid.
wait, we're not getting paid?
Man, I don't get paid for this.
Okay, I'm at the Papega. That was wisdom. So take everything I just said out of context. So never mind.
No, but I will say I have seen some of Hyperflex's VODs with like their actual comms and whatnot, and Arrow is very conscientious of whether his players are getting tilted or not. Or, I remember, I think it was Herping Yoshi was having like a bad day or something, and Arrow's like, okay, let's get you out and make sure you're doing good, because he doesn't want to like completely tilt his players off the face of the planet.
Honestly, like one of the things I'm kind of excited about of Novice is not many people down here are going to have egos, mainly because they're gold and below, so they really shouldn't have egos.
I mean,
I don't think anyone's actually gonna develop an ego for the first 3 weeks. I remember even,
at least
Yeah.
the
but
first 2 weeks.
in Novice last season, nobody had. I don't think anyone actually, I trash talk a lot.
Rio trash
I was
talk.
gonna-
I
Rio
trash
trash
talk.
talk.
I trash talk a lot, but other than Rio, like nobody had an ego. Like I remember after we beat Ballburgers, I didn't even get played, and I was like, y'all are shit.
Whoa. This is PG.
This is
Podcast.
PG. Oh my bad. Yeah, I trash talked them, and like people were just roasting me for that, and I didn't care.
Yeah.
Yikes.
Honestly, it's like one of the things where they're not going to develop egos, and at least in the beginning, and whichever coaching staff does the best of basically kind of checking these egos, I think it has the best shot of winning the league entirely.
Yeah, I mean you can have an ego, but you gotta back it up, and there's gonna be pressure on you to
100%.
back it up every time.
There's a difference between like being like confident and being cocky.
Yeah.
Fine line.
Definitely. And I think that we can end it there then, because we went through all the predictions and power.
Yeah,
rankings.
that is everything we officially have to do. If you want to close it out, great.
Yeah. So thank you guys all for watching. We're gonna keep this short and sweet, with only 2 segments. But hopefully you guys all did enjoy this episode. Be sure to check out next week where we will have another segment for the week 2 games. And I think that we're just signing off right there. See you guys.
Up ham. Alright.
I'm extremely tempted to leave the Pam in.
Yo, I'm fine with that. Leave the Pam, you know?
Well, Pam, yeah, it's the weekly start off, man. It's the new
Yeah. Whoop Pam! Alright. So we did tier lists for the different divisions, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you starting the segment now?
I guess, sure, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Alright.
I wasn't sure if you were like waiting for me to start it, because...
Okay.
And I was like, wait, what?
Wait, what?
Yeah, exactly.
Alright. Power rankings. Last place, easy clap. Power rankings for Division A. I had Papega Parrots as first, Vitalized as second, Double Cap as third, Bop Burgers as fourth, CDC as fifth, and DKE is sixth.
I feel really bad for DK. I feel like people are really ragging on them, mostly because they pick up most of a Snowball Cup team.
Yeah, and Snowball Cup is like a...
Some of the teams in there were pretty good, but as I recall, I believe the team they picked up was Hawaii E-Girls, and I don't remember if they were good or not,
Uh-huh.
but they were ragged on a lot, so I could see why everyone's putting them last. I put them last.
I put them second to last because not that I believe in them. I like the color scheme. And I also believe in last.
I don't recognize anyone on the team, so
I
believe
really
in
do not know
CDC
anyone.
last. So that's why I put DK in.
But I see that, Zen, you have DK as your number one.
What is going on with that?
I am...
I'd like to point out that it is the exact opposite of mine, I believe, besides CDC and DC.
Did not mean to do that, but
Oh, wait, no.
Oh,
Okay, alright.
alright.
It's close.
I was like, Papega Parrots in sixth? In the division?
Alright, so we all agree that Papega Parrot should be first, right?
Aside from Zen.
Stacked.
Aside from Zen.
Damage line. It's a stacked team all around. Like,
Yeah.
there's no way that they come, even worst case scenario, lower than second.
like I can see them going up higher. I don't know most of them, so
That's fair.
Yeah.
A lot of them are veterans to the league. It is worth noting that Chicken is unable to play, I believe, for the first 3 weeks or something. He's not like suspended or anything. He's just going to be like out of town or something, or not going to have access to his computer at the game time.
Uh-huh.
Gotcha.
But at the same time, I believe Tanik has been saying, and granted Tanik is biased because he's on the team, but his other DPS partner, I forget who it is, but he said they've been doing pretty well.
Alright, that's nice.
Honestly, and just in a DPS line alone, like, you have Tanik. You know what?
Yeah, Tanik is a monster when you put him on the right heroes.
Yeah. I can agree with that 100%. Alright. So let's go with Vitalize next, because that was my next in the tier list at least.
Yeah, everybody has Vitalize in second except for me, apparently, and I have them third. I've double capped second for some reason, but yeah, Vitalize seems to be a pretty strong pick.
Yeah. Let's see their
I
raw.
remember a lot of people were ragging on Croc, like, during the draft, especially in Twitch chat, saying, like, oh my god, he picked up Grape Cake, I think, like, third round, something like that.
Yeah, he did pick him up third round.
He's a very polarizing figure, but Croc had DM'd me afterwards, and he heard, I think I said something along the lines of, like, Grape can either be a hard carry or a hard throw, and he basically said, like, they're working with Grape to fix his comms, he's gotten a lot better already, so if they can do what they say they're doing,
Yeah.
like, bring it to the game, they could be scary.
Yeah, that's gonna be that's gonna be scary if they just. I'm basically repeating what you're saying. My bad.
No, it's fine. I mean, Grape is a mechanically talented main tank, it's just, you have to get used to his comms.
Yeah. Plus, he's a personality. That's all. Like,
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
comms, I mean, if comms are the easier of the two to fix, rather than the mechanic. I mean, at least in my experience, and that's just speaking personally. Because mechanics can come very naturally. It's just learning how to play with a new team, learning the call-outs, and learning basically everybody's personality. If you have the right coaching staff in place, and with a player as talented, I don't know, I got faith.
yeah.
It may be misplaced, but I have faith.
Yeah. All right. So my next pick is Double Cap. I believe that we all are around that place, correct?
Yeah, I've double capped second, but we all have them top three.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Double Cap seem to have a pretty good roster. Their DPS line looks very good, first of all. Second of all, I can see their tank line being one of the top, at least in intermediate, my bad. And their support line looks like an average support line, in my opinion.
What is their support line? I forget.
According to their thing, they have Nin and Lilac. Those are their only supports.
Lilac, I believe, used to be called Waifu Warrior.
Uh-huh.
And that's a person from Snowball Cup, if I remember, if I'm correct about this. I know Waifu Warrior changed their name. I forget if Lilac is their new name, but they were a pretty good support back in Snowball, if I remember correctly.
Oh, and my bad. Also, Frogman's there. For their support line.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. But they have a lot of subs. They have a lot of DPS subs, a lot of tank subs. I believe 5 DPS and 4 tank.
I don't expect them to start, but I kind of want to see Payne in for at least a map or two.
Yeah.
I have not seen him play since Season 0.
Is Season 0 Ubu?
No, he was One Trick Wonders.
Wait, he was one trick. Oh, my bad. My bad, Payne.
Double cap Payne, that is so cursed.
Double.
Yeah, will they finally be able to break a brand curse?
I mean, hopefully.
Maybe. I mean, Double Cap has completely different management this time around, and I would argue more stable management. I mean, Zach was good last season, but he had to go for surgery and all that. He was busy IRL,
Yeah.
but then they had Toasty for most of the season, and he wasn't terrible, but he didn't really want to be a manager. He just wanted to coach.
Right.
Yeah. Alright. So let's move on to the next team. Next team, I have Bot Burgers, and we all have them around 4th and 5th. Acri, you have them at 5th instead of 4th. And also Zen.
Yup.
Yeah. Can you give us a reason why they're below
CDC.
CDC? Yeah, my bad.
So, this isn't the reason why, but it is an interesting statistic that I'll be going over way later in the final segment of the show, going over draft statistics. But Bot Burgers actually has the lowest average SR of all the intermediate teams, regardless of division. They're the only one that breaks down into plat by a significant margin. By the way, the next lowest is 3018. They have an average of 2896. So they picked a lot of lower SR players, and that could either mean that they picked up a lot of diamonds in the rough that are going to shoot up, or that they picked a lot of players that are going to be mechanically less talented than their counterparts. Although I will say that Bob Burgers did the exact same thing last season. They picked up a lot of players more for their personality. So we'll have to wait and see. Granted, they don't have Ham off to carry them this season because he's off in advance.
Yeah. So they're looking to get a lot of personalities. First of all, let's see. I'm looking at their roster right now, and I think they picked up a lot of unknowns, like a lot of teams that are lower on many people's power rankings. I think they only have like a few veterans.
Bottlers, let's see, they have Sloth, All Might, Painless, Kai. Those are all the League Zero veterans, but then they have some other people who've been around in like Toker and whatnot. They have Genos, they have Squirrel Ben, I believe, was from Toker.
Yep.
Erisic Wings, I think they might be from Toker. So they picked up a lot of people that they're all familiar with, and that pre-established synergy could be a defining factor.
Yeah. Also, I feel like even though they have the lowest SR, if they get a good coaching staff, that's going to boost them up maybe to my top 3. Because
especially, wow, I'm just on the computer. But even like especially in an era or an area like intermediate where you're going like plat, diamond, that area, it's all what separates good and bad is game sense. I expect most of the players to be around the same range mechanically. Maybe not, like, obviously there's going to be some standouts. But it's all about the system, and it's all about how they adapt to situations. And I think a coaching staff in this division especially makes the difference above anything else.
Actually, interesting. I completely forgot about this, by the way, until just looking at the registry now, but Neglect is actually the head coach for Botburgers right now.
Yeah, I can second this. He is a very good coach. He coached Plat Chat to a Grand Finals win. They won Novice Division last season. And he was also a part of Newts, which I joined after him, and he helped us through just like getting to know the other players.
Oh, Erisic Wings. That's phone. Okay. I completely blanked on that one.
Alright, are you guys ready to move on to the next team?
Yeah, it should be CDC.
Yeah. I think most of us had CDC in the bottom, around the 4th, 5th, and 6th.
There's just nothing that impresses me about this team. Like, I'm just gonna put it bluntly, like, nothing stands out as a strong suit. I see a lot of question marks just around the board.
Yeah, for example, they have the tanks Surmi, who I know is personality, and also Jeff, who was in Plat Chat last season.
Surmi's actually peaked recently up at 3.9k, so he just like shot up. So he's gonna be pretty good, assuming he keeps that rank.
Yeah.
Although I will say that Jeff in particular, I believe we even said this in the draft analysis, Jeff was trying to go to Papega Parrots because they were trying to recreate Plat Chat in a way. So we're not really sure how, the staff aren't really sure how long he wants to stay on CDC.
Yeah. And wait, Jeff plays main tank, correct?
Yep.
Yeah. And Surmi plays main tank, correct?
Surmi's off tank.
Surmi's off tank? Oh, I thought it was main tank.
Like, from what I saw, I think he played Sigma mostly this season.
Alright.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't blame him. Marissa isn't fun, am I right?
As a main tank, I would rather honestly just play Roadhog.
Yeah.
Than play Orisa. Like, I would rather just stand in the middle and just get shot at than play Orisa.
Yeah. Definitely Ryan, in my opinion, Ryan and Sigma are much more fun than Orisa.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, 100%.
It's so hard to pull it off, though.
Yeah.
It's such a brawly comp.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Alright. So,
And then
is that all that we have to say about CDC? Alright, that's it. Alright. Then let's go to DKE. Dunning-Kruger effect. So overall, their team looks on the lower end. they picked up they picked up 3 tanks, they picked up 3 DPS and 3 sports. So they're going with a 9-man roster. In my opinion, they should have at least 1 or 2 more players. Because let's say that 2 of their supports can't go to a game. What are they going to do then?
Right, yeah, it's a very interesting move that they, like, again, took 3 tanks and then also just passed on, like, round 10, 11, and 12 of the draft. Like, they...
Yeah, if they made one...
Yeah, this looks fine.
Yeah, they made one, like, a small roster, but, like... At least pick up another person, like, to flex to other roles if someone can't go.
Right.
Yeah, we'll have to see. Like, I look at their player lineup, and from the players I know, granted about half of them I don't, there's no one that seems like a real star, like standout star potential, aside from like maybe Pichu, if she can play Diva, because she is really good at Diva. Like,
yeah.
I know there's a whole meme culture.
Pichu bomb! Pichu bomb!
She legitimately pulled those out of nowhere, and if she can do that on like Sigma, then she could really pull something up. But Zen, you in particular have DKE as first. What made them impress you so much?
I really like their support line and like their main things of Axel, Paxel, and Bunny Channel. I have a lot of faith in them.
Alright, so let's move on to the intermediate B side. So for me, my number 1 is Shanghai Sellouts. Do you guys agree with
We
this?
all actually have number 1.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're just a powerhouse roster.
They have a powerhouse roster. I trust their management, and like the coaching staff that they put around it looks really well rounded. It would be a monumental failure if Shanghai Sellouts does not finish first or at least top 2. Same with Pepega. Like for me, it would be a tragedy if they were to drop.
Yeah, I honestly can see the finals just being Shanghai versus Pepega, which is pretty funny because Lilithy, the manager of Shanghai, used to be on Pepega last season, so... Actually, there's quite a few old Pepega players that are now management.
Ah. Alright.
We got Nick in High Society. Anyways, keep on.
Yeah, alright. So next, I have Powerhouse. Born and Acri also have Powerhouse. But Zen, you have Powerhouse in number 5. Can you explain?
I think you might have cut out.
Yeah.
I think it's more of I have more faith in other teams above, or I have seen more from them. I don't really know that much about Powerhouse in specifically.
I think that's a fair take.
Yeah, that's a fair thing to say.
I do personally know a lot of the players. Granted, if I didn't know how explosive their potential could be, I would probably have placed them lower because there are also quite a few memers. I mean, granted, there are some people on there that are rather stable, like Sinoff or Pew Pew are pretty chill, but then you have people like Copy Dog and Dad who can be a little bit more volatile at times. So
I think it's more of
a for the game.
Yeah.
I think they have potential to do really good, but I think they have more potential to not do it.
But I put them so high because they already have a pre-synergized core from another league.
But I mean, I would also agree that out of all the teams, not even Division B, but in Intermediate, I think they have the widest range. Like, I think they have the highest ceiling, but also like
The
highest
lowest.
potential to collapse.
Yeah.
yeah,
Not the highest potential to collapse. I do not agree with that. That team's coming up soon. But... I agree with you. Like... I just feel like the pre-synergized core will just make them go far.
No, I agree. I think they have enough stability to kind of outweigh the personality and the risk that's involved with having so many. I think somebody said explosive personalities.
Yeah.
I think if they start off hot, then they're just going to continue to coast along and do pretty well. If they somehow lose like week 1 and then maybe week 2 or 3, then like I think they might just get down in the dumps and just never be able to recover. But we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah. Alright. So, let's go to the next team. For me, that's High Society. So let's go to them next. Acri, you have them at 4th. Born, you have them at 5th. And Zen, you have them at 4th. I have them at 3rd. I just like their roster in my opinion. They have a pretty good core.
Yeah,
Like-
I like a lot of their players.
Yeah.
They don't have as much like star potential per se. Granted, a lot of these players are old Papega, and I said the exact same thing about them back when they were on Papega. But at the same time, I know they're really stable, so I can see them as like a really solid mid-table team, sort of like a gatekeeper to the upper echelons of their division.
I
Yeah.
see them as a potential dark horse of the intermediate division.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, I definitely think they'll beat the teams that they're supposed to, but then struggle against the top tier teams. Like I think Ackery's pretty right. I think they're going to be gatekeepers. I know I ranked them 5th, and I'm talking like this, but it's more that I see more pop-off potential in like Yoink and even Overcharge than I do High Society. So it's not even that like I rate High Society low. It's just I feel like there's more potential elsewhere in the division.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can definitely see that.
Yeah. Alright, are you guys fine to move on to the next team?
Yeah, sounds good to me.
Alright, let's go. So my next team is Yoink. Acker, you have them at 3rd. As long as Born... Also, Born, you have them at 3rd. And Zen, you have them in 2nd. I have them at 4th. So, in my opinion, they give me... They picked up a lot of unknowns. If I'm not wrong. And
I
this...
know a good amount of them, but yeah.
Yeah.
I know everyone.
I mean, in my opinion, but like, this is completely biased, but picking on unknown teams and putting them very low, I don't like that.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Just to put them lower because you don't know.
Yeah.
Personally, I know Acid is a really solid. Like he's on the upper end of
Yeah.
the intermediate SR range.
Yeah, I played with Acid in Z9, Season 0.
Back in the day.
Yeah, he popped off then. And then also Raging Cool.
Yep.
Yeah.
Those two in particular, I think, are going to
Yeah.
be the stars. Like by themselves, they could probably drag this team kicking and screaming to a few wins because they're both like 34, 50-ish average SR. So they have played in advance before.
Yeah.
Both of them. So they have that experience of playing with the 4.2s and above.
Also, they picked up a lot of Season 0 Z9 players, at least 2 of them. They picked up Acid and Harry. I actually like Harry. I think Harry's play is very good, at least on Lucio, that I've seen when we played.
He's suspended for like...
Yeah, he's suspended for like, I don't know how many games, but a lot.
I could check it, but I'm lazy right now. I have too many things open at the moment.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's suspended for at least a little bit for posting edgy memes. What else is new? But
Itchy memes in League 0? What? Are you sure?
well, not only edgy memes, but Harry posting edgy memes. It's like that's his thing.
Yeah. But like, he played pretty good in Season 0. And I feel like,
A solid main support.
yeah, he's a solid main support. I feel like he could drag this team to possibly a playoff contention.
Oh yeah, I definitely see Yoink stealing playoffs. They're pretty solid. I
Yeah.
think.
Oh, for sure.
It is also worth noting that they still have a repick that they've yet to take as of recording this. Hopefully, by the time this comes out, they'll have repicked, but they had a Smurf that they didn't even know was a Smurf. So they get a repick for that.
Alright. Are you guys fine to move on to the next team?
Yep.
Yeah.
Alright. So my next team, it's all your guys' number 6. But my next team is wait what? I sort of want to change it. But
No, keep to your guns.
alright. My next team is wait what?
Yeah,
There-
I agree. This would be a horrible show.
We did that once last season. It was really funny.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, now I see the team that has the most potential to collapse.
Oh yes, definitely, without a doubt.
Whoops.
They have so many personalities that it's too much. They're gonna collapse.
Well, this is the point where I'm going to stop calling it personalities, and I'm just going to call it toxic.
Yeah, they.
I'm going to call it toxic. This is past the point of personalities. This team is going to wild when they start losing. Like, they're just going to mentally collapse when they start losing. There's this team's no. I can't formulate a sentence.
Cooter said it best in the analyst chat a couple days ago. Like, they give off very serious Season 1 Z9 vibes, where, like, the second they start losing, they're all gonna be gone.
Yeah.
And this is my Division 2, so I cannot wait for... I'm so ready for it. Because I believe... Yeah, no, I brought it upon myself.
Yeah. Like, can we just point out that 2 out of their 3 main supports are suspended for at least the first 2 weeks? Because you have Damien, who can't play until week 7, Adifi can't play until week 3. So Emkey, in the meantime, or Monkey, or whatever, however you say his name, he's stuck being the only main support for 2 whole weeks.
Which is, how do I call it? A bold strategy.
You can't even call that a strategy.
Well, that's fair. If there was ever a next man up mentality, or just baptism by fire, in this case, oh, I'm so sorry.
Trial by fire, if nothing else. And granted, he knows quite a few of these people are from Topher, if I recall correctly. I know Soundwave is. I know Jolt is. So, at the very least, they have some synergy, and they have that potential to be like a top 3 team. I don't know if they can beat the top 2 teams in their division.
Yeah.
But, I think they have that. But
I have no faith for egos to be kept in check, especially with like the leadership at the top. I just don't.
And you know the funny part is, like, on Friday, when this episode comes out, they are gonna go ballistic.
Oh my god, yeah. They are. 100%.
Prove me wrong. This is your chance. Prove me wrong. Make my job easier. Please, dear. I don't want to have to deal with your drama.
Also,
Do the right thing. Play as a team. Surprise us. We're not rooting against you, but we have no faith.
also, wait, what? Wait, what? I'm the only one that put you in number 5. They all put you in number 6. Smile.
I put you in fifth.
Yeah, what? Yeah. What? Hey.
It's funny because
I'm going to talk more about it once we get to like the game by game or the game breakdown that we're about to jump into here in a second. But
Oh god.
Actually, it's funny
I have
too.
some words.
They actually have the
Better prove
highest
me wrong.
SR out of all of Intermediate as well.
They have the highest SR, but like, they have the highest SR, but they're just gonna collapse.
I mean,
They're
if they had-
talking. But my reason I'm so vocal is because they're being vocal out there. Like they are talking the most out of any intermediate team that I've seen.
Oh, without question.
Just jawing. So if you collapse, you brought it on yourself.
I think they have potential too, if they don't collapse at all, to like be mid-tier to top of
Oh,
the
for sure.
But
They have the talent on the team. That's not a
Yeah.
question. It's just can they keep the egos in check?
Yeah.
To be determined, I guess.
To be determined, I feel like it's pretty set in stone, but who knows?
Anyways, we have one other team before we can go to the match predictions.
Yeah.
I am the forgotten one.
Hey, yo, it's not forgotten. Don't tell them that. You're gonna make them sad.
Overcharged, I'm going to give them, like, Overcharged has the crappiest situation, or not, but most unlucky situation going into the season, just with, like, having to switch management so close to the draft. And it's going to take a little bit for them to gel. I'm not terribly impressed with the team, but, like, I'm rooting for them just based off the situation that they've had to deal with.
I will say, to their credit, they have 2 extremely standout players in TNT and LPN. So
For sure.
if they can
Yeah,
pull it out, it's going to be those 2.
Yeah,
definitely.
I don't think you're wrong on that at all.
Yeah, LPN was, if I'm not mistaken, the season 1 MVP for the grand finals, right?
Yep, Finals MVP.
Yeah. And that's just amazing. That just shows you how impactful he is.
He is a nasty flex support. Or main support? No, the PP was a main support. He's a flex support.
Yeah, he's flex sport.
He played a lot of Honor, that's why I picked it up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he is insane at Hana in particular.
Yeah. All right. So you guys ready to go to the match predictions?
I am ready.
Oh God.
Mostly unanimous.
Mostly.
All right. So our match predictions for the CDC versus Double Cap. Right now, I have Double Cap winning 3-1. Acri has Double Cap winning 3-2. Born has Double Cap winning 3-1. And Zen has Double Cap winning 3-2.
The only reason I have it 3-1 is because I think it's early enough in the season that Double Cap doesn't have their system together quite yet. I think this could very easily be a 3-0.
Yeah.
Must be 3-0 for CDC.
No. Well, I didn't say which 3-0.
I feel like CDC has a chance to win, but that chance is so slight that I'm just gonna say that they're gonna win one map.
I think it's going to rely on VC shutting down Surmi in particular, because he has been climbing up, and I don't know, he has improved his gameplay, because SR doesn't necessarily mean improved in terms of like a team environment, but I do think this will be a really close match, and I think this might even be the match of the week. At least I'm hoping.
Yeah. Alright, so starting off with the potential match of the week. Next we have Bot Burgers versus DK Effect. We, almost all of us have... No, never mind. I have Bot Burgers winning 3-1. Acri has Bot Burgers winning 3-1. Born has Bot Burgers winning 3-2. And Zen has DKE winning 3-1. Can you give us your opinion, Zen?
Could be a really close one if potential match of the week as well as the first one. But I'm gonna take you guys' words and say about how good Bot Burgers could be. But I could go either way, but I have more potential seen in DKE.
Alright, that's understandable.
I think this could be a close match, but especially because I have these two teams right next to each other in my power rankings, but we'll have to see. I think it could go either way. For now, I'm just going with whoever I place higher in the power rankings.
Okay, so next match, we're going to look through Pepega Parrots and Vitalize. I have Pepega Parrots winning 3-1. Well, me, Acri, and Born have Pepega Parrots winning 3-1. But, Zen, you have them winning... you have Vitalize winning 3-0.
3-0. 3-0?
Damn.
There is an explanation that needs to be told, and I need to hear it.
Yes.
Right now.
It's obviously a hot take.
Look at
It
his power
is
rankings.
scalding.
Yeah, just look at the power rankings.
Yeah, I mean, he has Vitalize at 2nd, Pepega at 6th. I think that's reasonable given what he's thinking.
I mean, just personally off of what I see this happening, but I do think that it could happen though.
Yeah.
I mean, hey, like I said, this show would not be interesting if we just all agreed.
You're allowed to have differing opinions.
There's going to be some bragging rights if Vitalize pulls off a 3-0, and they're going to go to you. Like, you just...
Alright, so next match, it's going to be Overcharge versus Powerhouse. I have Powerhouse winning 3-0. Acri has Powerhouse winning 3-0. Born has Powerhouse winning 3-1. But Zen, you have Overcharge winning 3-0. Again. Oh, never mind. 3-1.
I just really like Overcharge right now. I think that if they hit their stride, they could be potential for number 1 and number 2. But it's like overall, without like going to the deepest lows and the highest highs, I think they're just middle of the path and they beat Powerhouse.
Alright.
I can see that, especially Powerhouse doesn't perform as much as
We're expecting.
some of us are thinking they
Yeah.
might. Like we said before, they have such a large range that if they do hit the lower end of that, Overcharge could very easily just take it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not... This is the one where I kind of... It could go either way. I believe in Powerhouse showing out, but yeah, if they don't... I think Milky's got a good squad over there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think he's got a good squad.
Yeah.
Alright. So next is High Society versus Shanghai Sellouts.
Hey, look, we all agree.
We all agree that Shanghai is going to win, but the map score is going to be different. I have Shanghai winning 3-2. Acri has Shanghai winning 3-1. And Born and Zen have Shanghai winning 3-0. I think that Shanghai is going to... I think that High Society is going to put up a fight because I just have faith in their roster.
I mean, I think they're going to put up a fight, too. I think 3-0 is not going to be kind of accurate inaccurate reflection of how.
You're thinking of like a close 3-0?
But I just think Shanghai is too good of a team. They have too solid of a system. I just don't think that they can get over the hump in a map. 3-1 is very, very likely, but I see it going 3-0. A competitive 3-0, but a 3-0.
All right. So, yeah, I guess we all agree. So, next we have Yoink versus Wait What.
Uh-oh.
Okay. So we all we all have Yoink winning. Me, Born, and Zen have Yoink winning 3-1, but Acri have them winning 3-0.
This
They are missing
is
two
going
many
to set them
pieces.
off.
Yeah, this is gonna set them off. If anything else, they have too many of their pieces missing week 1.
Yeah.
They, like I said, they don't have a backup main support at the time.
Yep.
I believe. Let's see. No, I think that's only their main supports are suspended for the time being. I am interested to see who they're going to play on main team because they have Covet obviously, but then they also have the Captain Soundwave. I don't know if they're going to be solidified enough or unified enough to take down the potential dark horse that Yoink is. You know, overall, I just feel like Yoink is more solid and Wait What is too volatile. They might pull it out and prove me wrong, and I'm more than welcome to that idea, but Yoink just looks too stable and too ready.
Yeah, the philosophy, in the words of the great football coach Bo Schembechler, what the world was that? Bo Schembechler. Edit that one out. Please don't do that.
No, keep that in, keep that in, keep that in.
The team. That's all it is. I think Yoink has bought into a team mentality a lot more than Wait What, and we're going to see that. We're going to see that in full force.
I think in the first map, Wait What is going to go in really confident and win like the first map, like pretty closely, but still win it because of like just star pop-offs. But then after that, they're going to start. That's what I'm predicting.
Yeah. I'm just thinking how pissed they're going to be after they see this.
That's what prove us wrong. You've done nothing to prove us wrong yet. So
So here's the interesting thing, just like digging more into this matchup is like, I'm just looking at what I see as the star potential for Yoink, and especially Acid and Raging Cool in particular.
Yep.
And even Harry in that regard. Like, I would say Harry's better than MK from the little bit I've seen of MK. Granted, I've seen a lot more of Harry, so that's not necessarily fair. I don't actually know who Wait What's off-tank is, but I'm just assuming Raging Cool is going to put them to shame. And then their flex DPS, I believe, is Jolt, and Jolt is really, really good at Genji, and not much else. And Acid is just borderline advanced level flex DPS, so it's like, I don't see them matching up in the slightest, unless they really come prepared.
Yeah.
I think that this is going to reflect what we've been saying.
Yeah. Alright. So, I think that's it.
Yeah, you want to close it out, or just gonna cut it right when you said I think that's it?
No. We're gonna think of something. We gotta use our big brains for this.
What do you intro with it? We'll pow?
Yeah, we'll pow.
We'll pam? Whatever?
Yeah, we'll pow. Should we, Shabam?
Shablam.
Shabalao.
I'm just gonna cut this at a random part.
Shabloom! There we go, Shabloom!
One of these days.
We are
we're gonna-
certified experts, by the way.
Yeah, certified experts.
I'm trying
Our
not to
word is
skip
gospel.
Oh wait, I also want to say a disclaimer. We are not right. None of us will be right. Well, that's probably a lie, but like, we are not fortune tellers. We do not know.
Should be right.
We should be right.
If I predict everything week one, y'all gotta start calling me Bornstradamus out here, alright? Rebranding. The gimmick's on the line, alright? Granted, I'm gonna be very wrong.
What's happening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Advanced Division section of the Countdown. I am joined by a bunch of different staff here today. I have actually the Advanced Division Coordinator, Hedwig. I have Kate.
I had access archives, so I have to go there.
No, it's not Kate.
That was my roommate.
Hello.
And then we have the big boss himself.
And my roommate, apparently.
I remember the reference, but literally no one would get it because everyone's
He's
too
playing
young. This...
CS:GO, so he'll be popping in at times. just deal with it.
Anyways, we have a relatively short Advanced Division segment for you this week, mostly because they're not playing this upcoming weekend on Sunday. They have a week off because the Super Bowl screwed over our scheduling. Yay, sports. Not really.
Woo!
But in the
Neat
meantime,
sport.
we can go over the power rankings and go over the draft in particular. So, the power rankings are oddly unanimous in certain ways. Like, all four of us have certain, like, the same four teams more or less up towards the top, and then we have like the same two teams swapping back and forth between fifth and sixth place, and we have the same two teams at the bottom.
We all have Flock in sixth. I find that interesting for some reason. That's such a weird spot for everyone to be unanimous on.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just sort of like,
We're almost unanimous in first.
yeah. Actually, dividing. You're the one person.
Yeah, I had to mess it up. Okay, so here's what I'll say, because I know all three of you guys have Hanamura Hotshots number 1. I have Flushed 1, Easy Clap 2, Hotshots 3. So here's my deal. I am personally working through my power rankings off of the assumption that a lot of the players from Flushed and from Easy Clap have learned a little bit, and we won't have any teams completely implode. There might be issues, but no like complete implosions, right? And if that's the case, then I don't think it's a far cry to say that Flush and Easy Clap probably have, at the very least, I don't know, maybe there's some hidden gems and teams sort of further down that we just don't know, but these are the two teams that have the most mechanical talent just based on the people on their roster. These are the two teams that have the most hype built around them. Of course, Flushed has a lot of the Squeaker squads from last season, but you add in from last season's Chengdu Chads, who of course came in second place overall, and then you freaking adding Gagbag, who's the Advanced Division MVP of last season, and you add in newcomers like Mega Gus and Mythology, who I actually rate pretty highly, and they're really good and up there. Easy Clap, of course, is kind of a mixture of Crest and some Z9 members from last season, and then a couple newcomers like Cal, and these two teams I think are the two top teams mechanically. Even if Easy Clap doesn't scrim ones throughout the whole season, I feel like these are going to be the top two. But I do think that Hot Shots are the team with the best chance to overtake them due to management and coaching alone.
I mean, we do have to remember that I think it was this week or last week that Zero left
What's Your Peak?
What's Your Peak, which is one of the core teams from OD that formed Flushed.
Sort of.
So,
we don't
What's
actually...
Your Peak? Well, What's Your Peak players are kind of split between Easy Clap and Flush, to be honest.
Yeah, and we don't know. We know some of the people in What's Your Peak are the reason why Zero left that team, but I personally don't know exactly who. I have an idea of who, but the people who I believe are like the bigger issues aren't even in the league anymore. So I mean, we can get there when we talk about Easy Clap. I was originally going to do a whole different segment for the weekly segment talking about that, but I was like, people have moved on.
The Easy Clap.
Whoever runs that League Zero meme account and posted the old reliable Easy Clap exploding is like, I love that account.
You know what?
So,
shout out to whoever runs that.
Hell yeah, that's a really I'm very much enjoying that account. So let's have everyone else talk a little bit more about Hot Shots, because you guys all have them number 1.
I think it's just a huge amount of faith in Ham Up in a way.
Honestly, it kind of is, because looking at their roster, if you look at this roster, they don't have a ton of known players. Client is relatively known. I think he was on Z9 Season 1.
He was, I believe, drafted, but he never played with them, and then he became a free agent. He played with Hangzhou for one game. I believe he won that game and even got Player of the Match as a ringer.
I remember that game. Then people know Tiny Moo as a very good player, and Flawless, I believe, played last season.
On Easy Clap. He didn't really play that much, but he was there, and whenever he was played, he was pretty good.
And then Hanamura is also known for the fact that they're the only team in Advanced to draft an Inter player in Silver Star.
Yep.
Silver Star for Advanced.
Silver Star for Advanced, boys.
He made it.
He
made
did.
it. If I can speak a little quickly on Silver Star here, he dominated season 1 of League Zero, and then went on to Community Snowball Cup, where he was a really highly sought after player in that league, and then I can only assume he's only gotten better since then, because with time comes progress most of the time.
Yeah, I think depending on how they utilize him, he could be one of those players that just shoots up to GM like super fast because he just grinds out like the living.
For sure. In
daylights.
season 1, he spent most of his time on One Trick Wonders, which we now know did not have much structure behind it other than the players themselves. So, like him moving over to this season's Hanamura Hotshots is almost the polar opposite.
Oh,
so
yeah.
with that kind of structure behind Silver Star and genuinely trying to help him improve, he might be someone to watch as one of the most improved players of Advanced this season.
Yeah, definitely. And then they also have an almost intermediate player in Schaffler that they just picked up recently for a repick.
Yeah,
So
but
yeah,
looking at their team, honestly, they don't have a ton of well-known players, and I don't know their average SR. I haven't looked into it.
Hold on, I have it calculated. I have all these stats that I'll be going over actually in the very next segment of the this show.
Actually, while you're doing that, I almost picked Flush for first simply because of the raw talent, but it was a really close tie with Hanamura, and I only picked Hanamura first because of my bias for Astra.
It's funny that you say that because both Kate and I were on a team with Astra in Snowball, and he was a Diamond off tank at the time and really didn't play as a team, so it's very funny looking back at that and seeing he's climbed up to GM, so he obviously fixed something. Anyways, going back to the SRs, ironically enough, Hotshots and Gangsters are both tied with the lowest average SR in Advanced at 4K 43.
That makes sense considering they did pick up the Inter player.
They
Yeah.
picked up an Inter player in Schaffler's almost Inter.
Oh my god.
Thanks, Dividing's roommate. But so it's interesting that we have one of the highest. We have actually two of the lowest rated Advanced in the top 4, with Gangsters kind of randomly spaced around in top 4.
Well, Gangsters is pretty mid-table. I think everyone agrees. They're going to be a solid, stable team, but not anything to like completely contest Flushed. I don't think very many teams can contest Flushed aside from Easy Clap when they feel like trying. And if Hanamura turns out to be like the slow burn of a team that I think they are, where they just start off possibly a little bit slow, especially because I believe they're facing Flushed their first week. But like over the course of the season, I'm expecting Hotshots to just pick up steam and never stop. Similar to Bot Burgers.
Oh yeah.
But that's like that's the upper end of the power ranking. Let's talk about the lower end in particular. Let's talk about why Newt is almost unanimously rated low, aside from Kate, who placed in third.
Yeah, Kate placed in third. Here's my deal. Here's my deal with Newt. Newt picked up Baz as their main support, who is suspended for 2 weeks, right? Yep. And then I'm gonna be honest, I don't see Baz staying on this team past week 3. I think it's very likely that either Flushed or Easy Clap or both might try and figure out a way to trade him away, just like he did, and just like he did in season 1. So I don't know. I honestly was not very high on Newt picking up Baz again. It felt like they're falling into the same traps that initially caused the team to start to fall apart last season. And with that, I don't know. I think their other main support on that team is Ben, who was all right he was all right for Easy Clap for a bit last season, but Easy Clap's Easy Clap. So who knows what to think about him?
Yeah, I will say that Ben seems to have a closer relationship with the the Season 1 Newt people, especially Dart, because he was their coach at the end of last season, so I get the feeling he'll be a bit more loyal. But it's ironic that you do say that for your reasoning for placing them so low dividing, because that's actually the exact same thing I was thinking. Is it feels like the same old song and dance, you know? I'm sure Baz will hang out and probably try his best while he's there, but I don't see him sticking around. Buffalo, I'm sure he'll just be chill and hang out the entire season because he's Buffalo, but...
Yeah, he'll be fine.
Isn't Adam a main support?
Yes.
But Adam's not on Gangster. Well, Adam's not on Nudes. Isn't he on Goats
Never
Only?
mind. Wrong team.
I was gonna say, even regardless, keep in mind that Adam swapped over to Flex support because Baz got onto Chengdu last season.
Yeah, looking at... It's hard to tell, really, with Newts. Because they're pretty much unanimously 5th. But I could see them, if Baz does end up staying around, and... Because I know Ultra's obviously incredible. He was one of, if not the best main tanks of Season 1. Then you have Jazzo, who's a very, very good hit scan. Fulifo, we all know him, Crest winner. Meta's playing something, I don't know.
Off support.
Off support. So Meta will be probably bench for Bafulifo, but
Yeah,
even
probably.
still, they have a decent sub in that. It looks like they could have, and Eok as their off tank. But it looks like they have good pieces. It's just, will all those pieces stay around, and will they be able to not do what they did last season?
I do want to give shoutouts to the manager of Newt D'Artagnan. He has been talking pretty consistently since the manager applications were open. He was talking about how he was kind of thrown into a tough position on Newt in Season 1, and he just wanted the opportunity to be able to build his own team. And he's had the opportunity to do that, and I hope it works out for him.
Yeah, I think he's...
That's...
Go ahead.
Alright, yeah, my reason why I rank them so high is, like, I'm under the impression that the best case scenario is that they'll all stay together and they'll all be fine. And that's why I have them in 3rd, because they have the raw talent, and I want them to, pass them. I want them to be all there together, in a sense.
Yeah.
I gotta ask, Kate, you have easy clap all the way down in 5th place. Is that because you're just assuming they're gonna fall apart?
I try to picture best case scenario, but no. Just no.
Considering
I'm sorry,
how laid back their approach is this season, where it's like they don't want to scrim at all, they just want to show up to games and have some fun, I can see them on the upper end of the middle of the pack. That's why I put them in 3rd place. But ultimately, I don't see them contesting for the championship this season, despite the fact that those players are definitely championship caliber.
They're definitely the highest SR, I think.
Oh, without question, they are.
Without question, they are. If they actually scrimmed and tried, I don't think Hanamura or Fleshed could contest them. In all honesty, I don't think they could.
Currently, Easy Clap has almost exactly 100 SR above Flushed on average.
Yeah.
So
that's the thing, is if they fully tried, I think they'd win the entire thing.
They just win. Yeah.
They don't care, and
that's
therefore
fine.
they're going to lose.
But they're gonna have fun doing it. Hopefully, they're gonna be 3rd, 4th place and have a hell of a lot of fun.
I don't think that there's really a chance of Easy Clap falling apart, in all honesty, because they don't care enough to fall apart.
Yeah, basically, unless a lot of their players, like Yusuf, for example, who placed 17th in breakable barriers, if they get a better deal with a higher ranked open division team or something like that, and they just don't have the time to even show up to games anymore, which doubtful because the time slot should be conducive to open division or whatever.
Plus, they're not scrimming anyway, so they don't have to worry about that.
It's literally 2 hours of just hanging out with friends and playing. But we'll have to see. Unless any of these players want to take it more seriously, and then I could see them going off to different teams, in which case that might be cause. I don't know.
I
We'll
could
see.
see Poodle maybe, but
I don't know. He seems to be more in tune with what's your peak right now. I could see like maybe Falcon, or no, Falcon's not what's your peak too. I don't even know. Colby,
Avoid?
Endless maybe. Avoid didn't really care about last season, did he? He just had fun.
Avoid just kind of
He existed.
he got traded for 3 people.
Anyways, let's talk about the Flock for a minute, because we all unanimously have them at 6th place, despite the fact that they are the reigning champions from last season for Advanced. So like,
yeah, here's what I'm gonna say, because I was in the rooms as I was going around through the draft rooms as the draft was going on, right? And while League Zero was going on, while League Zero, the preseason was going on, the consensus was, oh, Hawk hasn't really done anything for the Flock in about a week and a half. Oh, he must be scouting ELO Hell Pugs, or he must have found a pre-made team to do it, to sign up all at the same time and sign up for the draft. And the answer, it turned out, was no, he was just busy with school and didn't start scouting anything until about 3 days out. And that, I think, showed during the draft, where of all the teams, he genuinely seemed the least prepared. And that just, while I have watched a Flock Pug, and I wasn't like, I was actually pretty impressed with how they were working together. I just don't know if they're going to be able to stand up to all the teams above them.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, they do still have Milton, who's pretty solid flex support. He's not like 0 level good, but he is good. And then you have Chance, who's easily, yeah.
The thing is, looking at their first 3, maybe even 4, except their 4th pick, Aegis dropped, I want to say?
I had heard rumors that he wouldn't be able to make it to games, but I haven't heard anything since, so as far as I know, he's still on the team. But yeah, there is that possibility.
So, there may be some issues with Aegis. So their first 4 picks all look decent. I mean,
Surf is Toker.
Interestingly, oh, that's interesting. So, Meek, at least for right now, is like playing kind of like, I want to say, like playing nice and playing with Flock and doing fine with that. Like, I haven't heard anything bad going on about that, but I do think he's also a contender as someone that Easy Clap might try and poach from the team after week 3.
I mean, that's reasonable considering Easy Clap does not have a flex support currently. so
both of Easy yoinked.
Yeah, that was pretty funny. But I believe EMP on the Flock is also a flex support. Or he's some kind of support, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, EMP27. I believe he's a main support, but please don't put me on that.
I believe they do have another flex support, is what I'm trying to get at, anyways. But
just looking at their roster overall, though, after those first 3/4 players, I do not know anything about these players. I mean, Peter I know, and he's decent.
He's good when he tries. He was really frustrated with Z9 last season because they weren't trying as hard as he wanted to.
DevH.
He hasn't been around since Season 0.
I drafted him. I didn't like him. Or no, I didn't. It's not that I didn't like him. He didn't show up.
He was AFK.
So I have no opinions on him.
Yeah. Can we just appreciate that the team called the Flock drafted a person called Birdboy?
Yeah.
Can we also?
I mean, their manager is Hawk.
Yeah.
They're also the only team who hasn't put their team in the advanced teams list.
You can harass them after we're done recording. Or I guess
I genuinely, I thought I even like told Hawk to do it, and he was like, "Yeah, sure, okay, man," and then just didn't do it.
God damn it, Hawk.
All right, let's not rip on the managers here.
We can rip on the managers for.
I will rip on the managers.
It's Hedwig's job to rip on the managers. At least those managers.
It's Hedwig's job to rip on the entire advanced division.
Pretty much, yeah. Speaking of which, let's go to the bottom 2. So Hedwig and I have Hung Zhao on 7th place and Goats only on 8th, and Kate and Dividing have the reverse. So, want to talk about Hung Zhao first? Hedwig?
Sure. So in all honesty, I'll give these guys a lot of flack. they caused staff teams a couple issues early season, and I have some personal bias against them from last season. But I do want them to do well, and I think, at least in the beginning, the fact that they have a decent amount of pre-synergy, their main support, main tank, hit scan, actually, I think their entire starting roster has all played with each other before.
Assuming Ecology is going to be around. Yeah.
Yeah. So, well, even if he isn't, it's YOLO.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, YOLO got right.
So their entire main roster has played with each other in last season, so they'll have that pre-existing synergy, which will give them a beginning edge, and that's why I put them above GOATs only. But I cannot see them at current being a serious title contender, because the only true star player I really can see on this team is maybe Term, because Terms, he was one of the best. He took my starting spot. Not salty about that at all. But, I mean, and Eco. Sorry, can't forget about Eco. Eco and Term are really the only two stars I can see on this team. And compared to the rest of the teams that have an entire starting roster, or pretty much an entire starting roster of really standout players, I mean, I can't see putting them that high up.
Yeah, although it is worth noting that because Agreed is suspended for, I want to say, one game and 3 maps, so potentially 2 games if they get 3-0'd, or 3-0. He's out for the majority of 2 games, so Juice is actually going to be forced to start. But the funny thing is, from what I've been hearing from other teams like Flush, that Hangzhou has been doing considerably better with Juice in as the main tank. So that brings into question, like, if they do really well their first 2 games with Juice, is Agreed even going to come back in? You know, I mean, despite that synergy, despite Agreed being like, what, 500 SR above Juice, like, if Juice is that much better for the team, is Agreed going to be capable of stepping back?
I mean, the point of a main tank is the calm leader, and Agreed does not fit that description.
I mean, he's. I wouldn't say like Agreed. I mean, Agreed definitely calms. I mean, it's. I don't know if it's like
not calms, calm. Like
I mean,
CALM.
Oh, calm.
Brian can't understand me.
What do you mean? That's the same word. It sounds exactly the same.
I didn't put an S on it, dividing.
It's the same word.
No, Agreed definitely calms. He's not calm, though.
Calm.
Okay.
I'll pronounce it calm from now on for you to
Thank you.
Neat.
I also do want to point out
I
they
agree.
do have Kygo.
Yep.
Which is interesting.
He is...
How many maps is he suspended for?
2 games?
He's 2 games. After like 2 games, then Hangzhou is going to have trouble for their first 2 games, and then after that, they'll at least have all their players unsuspended. You know, assuming that they don't break any more rules.
Coffee better not.
I mean, I can really only see 2 people breaking the rules right now, and those are the 2 people that currently can't play for the first 2 games, essentially.
Yeah.
That's true.
Let's. I think that's enough ragging on Hangzhou for now. Potential, prove us wrong, just like you did last season, and we will have to eat our words. But let's go over to GOATs only, because this one is like unanimously considered one of the lowest rated teams, and I don't know if everyone has the same reasoning as me. My personal reasoning is it feels like they have just a bunch of pieces that they kind of shove together with no real synergy in terms of like people's personalities or playstyles or anything like that. But what do you guys think?
Let's see. So their captain is Lux, who is pretty good. Norse dude, I don't remember him at all.
He was maintained for like 2 weeks on Easy Clap.
Oh. Adam is good. Fugla, who?
New person.
Chegg is fine. Moby is good. Vegetal is Who?
Toker.
Vegel's a really good player. He's a good player.
He's a good
Juice.
player in Toker. This is an entirely different magnitude
Yeah,
of
no.
skill that he's
It
up
looks
against.
like there's a decent number of Toker players on this team, from what I heard. from you guys earlier.
Vegetal, as far as I know, unless like Just or Zoinks are from Toker.
Yeah, Vegel's
I
the
thought.
only.
Oh, okay. I thought I heard.
No, that's
No, I think it was
the Flock has a lot.
Flock picked up a bunch of Toker players.
And
well,
I believe
that makes
Guangzhou
my
might?
opinion less of them.
Yeah,
But
Guangzhou has a few.
But yeah, that's the problem I have is I don't know any of these players, and looking at their list for like synergy wise, I don't see how they have much of, if any, chance of standing up against any other team, even Hangzhou.
Yeah, it's gonna be rough. If they can pull it out, I think they can start to roll off of their momentum. But I have the fear that they're going to be a very emotions-driven team. Like if they start off slow, they're just gonna be slow the entire season. If they start off on a winning streak, they're just gonna keep going and rolling through.
They're
But it
kind of
depends.
like an unknown almost.
I mean,
Yeah.
to their credit, they have reportedly been performing pretty well in scrims, but take Scrimbucks for what they are.
Yeah, Scrimbucks don't mean much.
Florida Mayhem reportedly were good in scrims.
Zephyr was reportedly good in scrims, but he's never
for the scrim
performed.
guy.
Of course,
yeah.
dude. Of course.
I mean, like, I think one of the challenges here is, like, sure, some of these players are good, like Lux, like Moby, possibly Vegetal, although I don't think I've ever seen Vegetal play up against people more his skill level as opposed to people in Toker who are, like, a good rank or two below him. So it's like, are these people going to be able to hold up against, like, the Gag Bags, the Falcons, the Koodles, or, like, when you get into, say, supports like the Basilisks, the Buffaloes, people like that? Are they going to be able to stand up against the best people of their role? And I just don't really see it.
Precisely.
Yeah, I get you. I think Goats could, at the moment, I don't see them getting any higher up than like kind of middle of the table with just like the pieces that they have right now. They have some good pieces, but I'm just not sure. Here's what I will say about Goats Only, right? Because when I first made my power rankings, like right after the draft, Goats Only was at the bottom and Bark was 7th. I swapped them around based on how both of these teams behaved after they found out that a couple of their picks were inactive. Pooter, I think, did a pretty good job on Goats Only. At the very least, I don't know anything about Zoinks or Raph, the two people that they picked up to replace their inactives, but he did a good job of scouting the player pool and trying to fill those holes that were left behind by the inactive people, and I think that does show signs of good management and good organization behind the team. Meanwhile, Bark have a couple of inactive people, and they've just kind of been sitting on them. Like they haven't really.
Yeah,
I don't even know. I don't even know if they plan to pick anyone up.
I don't know.
They're just kind of there, and that to me shows signs of a management that you could say optimistically is more optimistically is more relaxed. Pessimistically, maybe just not as good of a management.
Or just inactive, if you want to be particularly nice. But,
Well, they're not inactive, right? Jepic and Recto aren't inactive.
Well, they're resting on their laurels in a sense. Like, they're inactive managerially speaking. They're looking for scrims and whatnot, but they're not really fixing. They have 2 free picks out of the draft pool essentially because they have 2 inactive players. A lot of teams, even in advanced, have been getting replacements rather quickly. Whereas these guys have been known to be inactive basically since the day after the draft because they didn't respond, they didn't join the team server, and they're just kind of sitting on those 2 spots when, other advanced teams are picking up people from the draft pool.
I mean, you can say that it's because the advanced list was picked Although I do know from statistics that Acri will talk about in the next section that we saw a bit earlier that there are some GMs at least that have been picked
There were
up,
like,
so-
I think 68 GMs in the draft pool, and 63 of them got picked up. But even then, like, there are some good players in these in the draft pool that got picked up that are not GM.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can talk about, high, like 3.8, 3.9 players could very easily, with the right mindset, improve to be even better than some of the current GM players in the draft pool. It all comes down to scouting, right?
Yeah, like Ada on Guangzhou, he's a really good player, but like he's only like mid 3.8 or.
He is 4.0 flat.
Yeah, there you go. So yeah, Ada on Guangzhou is probably gonna be one of those players that just are one of the lower ends, but also can grind up a lot.
Yeah, especially when they're put into such a trying situation. Is like, okay, you're gonna be versing 4.4s. We're playing against Easy Clap next week.
Have fun.
Yeah. Trial by fire. But anyways, that's kind of covers all of the power rankings. Went on a little bit longer than I was expecting, but then again, there are a lot more teams in this than most other divisions. So anyways,
Yeah. Plus we just have like more to say overall because we know more of the players in advance.
Yeah, that's a good point
Sorry,
too.
Novice.
So now this was
we'll learn as the
15,
season
20.
goes on. Okay.
Well, dividing Kate Acri might. I probably won't pay attention.
Anyways, you guys have any closing statements you want to say?
I'll be ever in your favor. Maybe I'll be ever in your favor. I swear to God, if any of you collapse, and please don't put more pressure on Acri. If you have issues, DM me. Thanks.
It's mostly intermediate at this point.
I say one thing at the end of every video: follow that advice.
He's not. That too.
Sure, that too. If you want to include that.
Don't be toxic.
Anyways, yeah. My closing statement is, these are just power rankings. I mean, literally nothing. Prove us wrong. Same thing I said last season, and on announcements like 20 times. Anyways, tune in for the next segment if you want to see a bunch of draft statistics. Otherwise, this will be the end of the show. Thank you for watching, everybody. What's happening, ladies and gentlemen? Acronator here for one final time, I promise. This is the last time you'll hear me for this week, at the very least. I believe I might be stuck doing the Advanced Division for a little while until we find a proper host, or unless I just take on the host full time. We'll have to wait and see. But for this final segment of the show, I wanted to go over some draft statistics that I thought were rather interesting, and I figured you guys might find them interesting as well. I know last season the basic graphic that I made up was well received, so you'll be seeing more in-depth graphics on various kinds of statistics on screen as well while I'm talking. And this will be rather short. I don't really want to talk about too much, but there are some interesting conversational pieces in particular. One very interesting piece is that the what do you call it? The spread for the SRs of the average player for signups is actually really interesting to me, because if you compare it to the overall Overwatch player base, it's almost completely inverse. Whereas there's about 1% bronze in the normal Overwatch player base. Grandmaster is about the top 1%. Silver, there's about 4%. Masters is normally 4 to 3%. Gold makes up almost 13.2%. Diamond is 10%, so on and so forth. And you can see the graphs on screen. They'll be rotating in and out as I'm talking. Which is really interesting to me in particular, because last season it was rather different in terms of what we saw, because season 1, what we saw for that spread of SRs is that instead of inverse, you basically took every rank and moved it up one. So the percentage of bronze would be silver, gold, so on and so forth, and then what you do is you take the 1% at Grandmaster and move it down to bronze. That much did make sense to me, and even this graph makes sense to me for what we have in Season 2, because generally the higher ranks are more involved in this sort of thing, whereas bronze, silver are generally not going to be that involved. I believe in total we had, I believe it was 8 bronze signups, Surprisingly enough, 3 of those did get picked up, and that's really cool to see that everyone had at least a chance in every single rank. Of course, the golds had a much higher chance of getting picked up for novice, the diamonds had a much higher chance for intermediate. Almost 100% of the grandmasters that signed up for advanced managed to get drafted. 63 out of 68, which is literally insane. That's like 92%, give or take. But then you do have some other statistics, not just to do with the variation of SRs and the people that signed up and were picked up, but also the average SRs of the teams in particular. In terms of division, it's not too surprising that, like, advanced division, the average SR was around 3,900. You know, you figured there was a good amount of GMs, a really good amount of mid to high masters, so it would level out right about there. But the average SR of those that were picked up is actually closer to 4,100, which is it's actually 206 SR above the average. And then you have some variation. Generally, it's around 100 SR above the average of total signups is what the average of those drafted were. For intermediate in total, it was about 120. Intermediate Division A is about 89. Intermediate B is, somehow, I don't know how this happened, but Intermediate B actually has almost double the SR above the average that Intermediate A does. Intermediate B has about 152, whereas Intermediate A only had about 90. So I'm not entirely sure how that happened, because they were spaced out evenly. But nonetheless, I guess those teams either knew what they were doing, got lucky with their picks, or drafted purely based off of SR, which I think might as well be the case, at least for one of the teams, which I'll go over in a little bit. And then you have Novice, which actually has the lowest, out of all the divisions, the lowest difference between the SR of that drafted as opposed to the SR of the average of the Novice signups. They only had 81, although I'm not entirely sure how this happened, but the average of everyone picked up in total out of all the divisions is only 74 higher than the total average of those picked up, sorry, 74 higher than the total average of those that signed up now that were picked up, because the total average SR of everyone that signed up is 3064, which is low diamond, which is actually almost exactly where it was during Season 1. It was about, I believe it was exactly 3050 in Season 1. And unfortunately, I didn't do these kinds of calculations, and I don't know if we have that sheet anymore, so I don't believe I can anymore, unless Dividing or possibly the League's Gmail has that document saved. But anyways, the average total SR of those picked up across all divisions was only 3138, which really isn't that much of a difference, to be entirely honest. I was actually surprised to see that in general. However, I believe there are some, especially in the Novice, where you have the bronzes and you have 8 silvers out of 26 that were picked up, so I'm sure that drags it down quite a bit as opposed to the 4.4s or whatever that were picked up. But let's talk a little bit about the average of the teams in particular, because there are some interesting stories to tell here in terms of what these teams were going for, what they may have been looking for. So to start off with the Advanced Division, you can see the list graphic moving somewhere across the screen. You may have already seen it. It might be coming up soon. I'm not really timing this. I'm just letting it go for, I believe, like 5 or 10 seconds before rotating to the next graphic, because that's a lot easier than trying to time it to what I'm talking about. Instead, you can just see it multiple times and understand it. But I think it's no surprise to anyone that's been paying attention to the Advanced Division that Easy Clap has by far the highest SR. However, if you look at their drafted SR and all the applications and the calculated SRs of the applicants that they picked up, it's not entirely accurate, because they did pick up 2 3,800 players that turned out to be Smurfs of 4.4 players who are their friends, 4.4, 4.3, somewhere around that range. So if you look at just the team's SRs based on the applications and ignore the fact that they picked up the 2 Smurfs that were hiding their identities, their SR is still the highest, but it's only by 2 SR. It's 4220, whereas Flushed is 4218. However, if you take into account that the only 2 Masters players that they picked up were in fact Smurfs of 4.4-ish range, if you just take them out of the equation completely and calculate everyone else that they drafted, their SR skyrockets up to 4312, which is almost 100 SR above Flushed. And keep in mind, if you take those 2 out, that is relatively accurate to the average SR of the team and those that remained. Of course, they did pick up a few other players that are undoubtedly going to be a bit lower in SR. I believe Colby is 3.9, so that'll bring it back down a bit. But for the purpose of not knowing what moves teams will be making between when I record this and their first games, I'm just going purely based off of the draft. There are a few other cases of teams having Smurfs or players that just went completely inactive that I will be giving their official SR as opposed to their technical SR. And for the most part, as you could see, or have seen, or will see in the graphic for the Advanced Divisions average team SRs, it's pretty much what you'd expect. What I find interesting enough, and I don't know how this happened, is that the Guangzhou Gangsters and the Hanamura Hotshots, two teams that I personally rate very highly, especially the Hotshots, I see them both being, you know, at the very least, top half of the standings. And that's partially because they drafted not based purely off of SR, of course. When you're talking about people like Gagbag or like Koodle or Wannabe, of course, they're just going to be insanely high SR and insanely good. But I think there is something to be said about picking up players who are going to work together with the team and be the best teammates possible. Because you can teach skill, it's much, much harder to teach cooperation and good teamwork. And ironically enough, the Gangsters and the Hotshots both have the exact same SR, which is the lowest average SR out of the entire Advanced Division, which is 40-43. I don't know how that happened. They managed to take the average of very, very low GM, but I do expect good things from these teams in particular, so it'll be interesting to see if that pays off, especially since the Hotshots, I believe, probably has dropped lower if you take their current SR, because they picked up Schaffler and they dropped Like because he was inactive. And Schaffler is another very, very low advanced player in terms of SR. I'm sure in terms of skill he's going to work hard, and unless he's a sub, I'm not entirely sure what their intended lineup is at the moment. So that probably drops their SR, their average SR, to possibly below GM, if not even lower GM. So the Hotshots are almost definitely the official lowest SR team, despite the fact that almost everyone in the section just last segment in the Advanced Division was placing them like first or second or third. So that is funny to see. Now the Advanced Division A, I believe one of the big reasons, or sorry, the Intermediate Division A threw me off. It is rather interesting to me that their average SR is so incredibly low compared to their counterparts in Intermediate B. However, I believe a good part of that is due to the Botburgers drafting quite a good number of Plats. Like, I believe they drafted the vast majority of Plats compared to their contemporaries in any division. Like, they are the only Intermediate team with an average of Plat. Now, it is very high Plat. It's 2896. But at the same time, you know, you have Wait What or Papega Parrots who are, you know, 32, getting close to 3,300. So there is a definite possible disadvantage there, being almost 400 SR on average below some of the what's expected to be some of the top, or I guess in Wait What's case, possibly some of the bottom teams. So we will have to see. And even I would like to point out Wait What in particular, because they do have another technicality. They did pick up a Smurf in Joe, who was immediately banned, but that Smurf actually did manage to boost their SR a little bit, so it's not quite 3266 as you see on screen. It's actually 3247. Actually, no, I will be putting the 3247 on screen, but taking into account that Smurf, it would have been 3266. But even with the slightly lower SR by 19, it's still by far the highest SR in all of Intermediate by about 14. Powerhouse being the next highest, and then Papega Parrots being third. And then you go over to Yoink, who actually unknowingly picked up a Smurf. Apparently someone else tried to get onto a team, I forget who. But regardless, they did pick up a Smurf, and ironically enough, that Smurf was actually dragging their average SR down, because it went from 3048 to 3074. Now that does actually still place them in their subdivision in the exact same spot, just significantly closer to the next highest team in terms of average SR, which is Overcharged. But I did find that funny that a Smurf actually did manage to drag the SR down for once, at least in the Intermediate Division. One interesting thing that I found is that Shanghai in Intermediate B is pretty widely considered like a top 2 team. I believe everyone, if I remember correctly, it's been a couple days since we recorded that, but I believe just about everyone placed them in the top 2, despite the fact that in terms of average SR, they are the 3rd highest, and about, about 80 SR exactly below Wait What, and a good portion SR below Powerhouse. Obviously, they won't have to face off against Intermediate A for some time, so it's no real point comparing them, because by the time they get to the playoffs and potentially play off against the Intermediate A teams, are probably going to have a completely different roster, and the average SRs from the draft are going to be completely irrelevant. But I did find that funny that, in particular, Shanghai being pretty mid-table in terms of average SR, being so highly rated, although I do believe that it's sort of a similar case as to Hotshots and Gangsters, where they didn't necessarily draft the absolute highest SR possible, as much as just looking for good players. You know, a lot of the players that they picked up were scouted in the Pugs as being good teammates, cooperative, that whole lot. So it would be interesting to see how that plays out. I do personally think that probably Wait What ended up just drafting a lot of their friends. I know that for a fact. But then a lot of the players that they probably didn't know coming into the draft, they probably just picked them up due to their SR. I have to assume, based on other ways that their management have acted, both with and against the rules, for better or worse. So I get the feeling they just kind of filled out their roster with a lot of higher placed diamonds, for example. One thing I actually was surprised about is that Yoink is so lowly rated in terms of average SR. Like, they are the 2nd lowest in terms of their subdivision, and I believe the 3rd or 4th lowest overall. Yeah, just about. Which I guess would place them more mid-table in terms of the holistic picture of Intermediate, but considering that they have players like Acid, like Rage and Cool, who are incredibly high SR, like they are both about 3,400, and I'm expecting those two in particular to carry their team in some regards and be the standout players that they need. It's funny to me that their average SR was so much lower than I was expecting. I honestly would have expected, without looking at the stats, that they would have been closer to 3,200, 3,300 at the very least. But anyways, moving on to the Novice Division for the last little bit about the average team SRs. One thing that stood out to me in particular is that Geometric has a significantly higher SR than everyone else, like by a country mile, and I almost have to believe that they're just picking up the highest SR players. Like, I definitely have faith that Tyranitar can run a good team. But I also have that sneaking suspicion that he probably just picked up the better players in terms of SR, whereas you look at like Hyperflex, who is almost unanimously seen as one of, if not the best Novice team, really only up there being contested by Geometric and possibly Wisdom, maybe Platchat, which is another team that's pretty far down. Platchat is the only team with an average SR of Silver. However, I believe part of that may be due to the fact that they picked up, I believe, at least one bronze. I forget exactly the distribution of bronzes, but I believe they picked up one of the bronzes, and they didn't go for incredibly high-ranked players, aside from like 1 or 2 people who were like 23, 2400, but the majority of their players were actually closer to mid or low gold, so that kind of drags their average down, and they are the only team in the entire league with a SR of, an average SR of silver. So I find that very interesting, considering that I think Platchat this season could be a dark horse, or at the very least a very consistent middle-of-the-road competitor that is going to be very stable, very consistent, and if their opponents slack off, then they could very easily take wins here and there. I think they, at the very least, would be a gatekeeper to the upper echelons of Novice, if not being consistently a top competitor. So I would almost expect Platchat, if any other team, probably Hyperflex as well, to some degree, to shoot up in terms of average SR, just because of their coaching staff and their mentality, and how they went into the draft looking for players who are coachable and who will cooperate as much as possible. Of course, Wisdom did that as well, but they also picked up considerably higher SR players. Their average was closer to mid to high gold, I believe, and yeah, their average is second highest with 2262, so that's relatively respectable. And there actually is a little bit of a caveat to Geometric. I believe they picked up oh, they did, yeah, they picked up, so there was one, I was looking at this and trying to figure out what it was, but they picked up one not a smurf, because they legitimately signed up, and for some reason the spreadsheet, despite the fact that their average SR was 2700, actually labeled them as novice, despite the fact that everything in the calculations said that it should have been intermediate, and they were an intermediate player. Unfortunately, they did have to be removed from the team, and that kind of sucks because, you know, it's after the draft. They're going to have to deal with being a free agent for a while. So hopefully we can get that player onto a team eventually, because they are decently ranked for intermediate. I think they do deserve a chance after getting completely blue-balled like that, but that did knock Geometric's SR down a little bit on average. However, they are still almost 90, I believe, yeah, 88 SR above Wisdom in that regard. And then you have One Trick Wonders and Rio, which are dead even in terms of being in the middle of the average SRs, which is funny because both of those teams were considered pretty low rated in the grand scheme of things. So it's I find it interesting to look at that sort of stuff and see what their strategies are in terms of what they were going for in terms of the draft. You have teams that are relatively one-dimensional, like possibly Geometric, possibly Wait What, definitely Easy Clap, where I just realized that all three teams that have the highest average SR in their divisions recently teamed up as, like, quote, academy teams. So that's really funny. I just realized that now as I'm saying it. But those three teams in particular going into the draft, Easy Clap just looking for their friends, that much was obvious. They were trying to build the New York locals core. Kind of failed in some regards because they missed the chance to get, like, Gag Bag and Meek and Buffalo, but they did manage to get a good amount of their friends in there. Whereas Wait What, I'm pretty certain they just filled out the roster with high-rated, high SR players after they picked up their friends. Same thing with Geometric. I believe what they did is they just picked up, the higher rated players, because it's pretty unanimous. Like, the only person who was even silver on Geometric was their captain. I say was because Hanzo has been climbing a little bit lately. She climbed, last I saw, into like 2200, and she was like 1800. But then again, that's not too uncommon in this sort of thing. Once someone who's like silver or bronze, if they get into a good team environment with a good structure and good coaches, they can very easily shoot up to, at the very least, gold and get to that average rating, 2300-ish, where you're sort of like average in skill. But anyways, the last sort of thing I wanted to talk about before giving my closing statements is actually the distribution of veterans. Now, Novice in particular, as you would expect, only had, I believe, like 4 veterans that even signed up, and in this case, all 4 of them got picked up. Rio actually picked up the most, and Hyperflex and Platchat picked up some more. Platchat picking up Lordy, Hyperflex picking up Golden Pants, and then Rio picking up Volpixie, and shoot, I forget the other one. Good Doggy or Bad Dog, whatever, good something Doggy. He was on Rio last season. Unfortunately, he was like permabench because he was, mid-gold, and Novice last season very quickly shot up to Diamond and, in some cases, Masters, in the case of like Eps and Oace. So there was basically no chance Good Doggy was going to get playtime in that situation, but now hopefully he can. Intermediate is a little bit more sporadic. In most cases, you have some teams like Vega Paris that picked up 7 out of 10 players from the veteran pool. Then you have some teams like Double Cap or Shanghai that picked up 1 out of 12 or 1 out of 11 players that were veterans. Shanghai in particular, I find that really interesting because they are a team that's rated so highly, and I believe they're rated so highly because they did a lot of scouting, and they did a lot of good scouting. Like, the players that they were picking up out of the draft weren't known, but they did impress in pugs from what I've seen. They proved to be pretty stable players, obviously very good players, and I think that's a big reason as to why Shanghai is being rated so highly in most power rankings. And then you have a team like Dunning-Kruger Effect that picked up 2 out of their 9 players that were veterans. I believe Pichu and Null, their captain. And pretty much everyone else is not familiar with League Zero. However, I believe most of them did come from Snowball Cup, so at the very least they have been around in some regard. They probably know at least some of the players. I believe Pichu was on Kawaii Girls for a little bit in Snowball, which is a team I believe Dunning-Kruger made their core out of. But then you go up to Advanced, and you can see that this is really where most of the veterans come into play. I mean, Easy Clap has 9 veterans out of the draft, and 1 non-veteran being Cal. And even Cal knows a lot of the people on Easy Clap, so they're gonna be not going to have very much trouble becoming acclimated to that team environment. Granted, I don't think there's going to be much to acclimate to, considering Easy Clap doesn't really want to scrim, but you know, it is what it is. And then you have teams like the Hotshots, like the Gangsters, that picked up a little bit less than half of their team. Actually, both of them picked up 4 veterans, which happens to be the least amount out of all the teams, respectively, in Advanced. However, Gangsters obviously picked up a much larger roster than Hotshots, so Hotshots has a much larger proportion of veterans percentage-wise. And then you have some teams like Goats Only that picked up 5 and 5, so literally half their roster is veterans. Actually, I believe it's Goats Only. Let me double check the spreadsheet, but I believe it's Goats Only that actually picked up Moby, because the OL whatever account. Yeah, Goats Only. So that was Moby from last season. He was on Crest for a while, and he was traded to Easy Clap towards the end of the season. I don't know if he played very much. I don't remember. Easy Clap was kind of painful to watch at that point because they just couldn't get a win. But we figured out pretty easily that was Moby. It's still the same account, same Discord account. He just changed the name and I believe changed the numbers. He didn't even post that he was a veteran in the application, but he didn't outwardly try to hide his identity, so we weren't really sure what to do with it. I mean, if anything, it really only hurt his chances of getting picked up, despite the fact that he did. However, he's still relatively active in chat, so it's pretty easy to tell that it's Moby if you pay attention. And I'm sure he'll probably get a chance, because the other flex DPS on Goats Only is Chegg. But yeah, that's sort of the general statistics. I'm sure there's going to be more stuff in the graphics that I'll be putting up on the screen. And I wanted to close out with a little bit of a special monologue, because originally I was going to do something similar to the Spirit of League Zero video that I did last season for this segment, just to end out the preseason and say, like, good luck, you know, in the spirit of League Zero, have fun, all that, do the right thing, blah blah blah. But ultimately I decided that it would probably be better to not do that with all the drama from the draft and the fact that people got over it, because last season I did the Spirit of League Zero in response to the whole Roxaiza situation, and I felt like it wasn't really necessary, because that whole, I think the Spirit of League Zero kind of says it the best. But one thing that I noticed looking at the stats that sort of exemplifies the spirit of League Zero more than really anything else I've seen out of the draft is that out of the 8 bronzes that signed up, out of the 8 bronzes that signed up, 3 of them were picked up, and one of those 3 actually happens to be the absolute lowest SR player that signed up, period. Now, we did have some unranked players, but this is the absolute lowest SR player, and they were like mid-bronze, right? So extremely low SR. Now, I'm not going to disclose the player's name or the team that they got picked up to, because I don't really see the point in that. It's really just inviting them to be harassed at the very worst, or pestered at the very least. But I do find that absolutely fascinating and really wholesome and just awesome, because that really exemplifies what League Zero stands for. You can be someone that has, you can be bottom 500, granted this player wasn't, but you can be bottom 500, and as long as you're willing to show up to scrims, as long as you have a good attitude and you're willing to be coached and actually try to improve, you can get on a team. You can see what it's like to be in a team environment, and if nothing else, I feel like that is the ultimate inspiration to anyone that's trying to get on a team, because it's not just skill-based. This proves that more than anything else. I mean, this team purposefully picked up the lowest rated player, and it definitely wasn't because of their skill. I'm sure there is some skill there in some regard. Usually people aren't terrible at absolutely everything in the game, but they were almost definitely picked up because the team saw something in that player, whether it be coachability or just a good personality that they want to be around. So you don't have to grind out your skill. I mean, obviously that would help, but focusing on being a good teammate and being a person that others want to be around is definitely one of, if not the best ways to get on a team in this league. Because remember, we are not a tournament as much as a community league, and I want to put emphasis on community. And anyways, that's all I've really got. Hopefully that inspired some of you, because that was one of the coolest facts I saw from the draft. So anyways, I hope you enjoyed the countdown as a whole. If you have any suggestions or any comments, feel free to leave them below. I will be reading them extensively for this first week, despite the fact that I will be tired as hell from doing like 20 hours of editing the past 3 days. But hopefully you enjoyed it, and until next time, peace nut.